And that's what we talked about 4 years ago. Joy believed that. Everybody else believed that. We were all on the same team. I still believe that today. I've been working on that as your mayor for 4 years and more. We saw it then when we had other mayors, we had other situations, and we knew that things could be a little bit different than they're later better. You can never change, really, the external factors that affect the city. There are a lot of external factors that affect the city of East Cleveland, that affect us as an administration, that affect us as a unit of government, that affect you as people in your household. Many things were less expensive 4 years ago than they are today. If we look back 7 years ago, our houses were worth a lot more. Those of us who are like me, who own homes that we live in, my house was worth more 7 years ago than it's worth today. If we look at income, some people make about the same as they make, other people just are out of work. A lot of things have changed over the past several years, and we have to deal with some economic restructuring in our lives. But it's not just our lives, and it's not just this city, it's the nation, and in fact the world. Everyone at this point knows that there are global forces that are changing the economic structure of our world. Cities used to receive money straight from the federal government to use for whatever we want. Those were the days when we talked about this project being done using city funds. It really wasn't city money, it was federal money. They gave us a paycheck of a few $1 billion, and we spent it on whatever we want. Every city got that. Well, after a few different presidents and a few different Congresses, they saw that the global economic structure was changing, and they no longer sent money to cities to do that. The state government, the state of Ohio, same thing. We all pay property taxes. Well, those of us who own homes and pay our property taxes, we pay to the state of Ohio in many cases, through Tyler County. Those of us who pay income taxes, we pay to those units of government. They, at the state, used to return some of that money, just like the federal government did. Used to return some of that money, and so cities could do a bunch of things. Those days are gone. Cities are left to ourselves. Other cities, over decades, planned for that and prepared for it. The city of East Cleveland, over decades, this didn't start with 4 years ago or 3 years ago, over decades, we had individuals in our offices and really in our community who wanted to keep things the same, wanted to preserve what we had, and little did they know the things that we had at that time were being slipped away from us bit by bit, and no one even noticed, and no one even notices until the water main breaks, the road caves in, the houses are vacant. Other people didn't realize what was going on. Other people, other folks who cut budgets in previous decades, cut housing inspectors, cut planning departments, cut all sorts of those things. There has been an institutional downgrade of the city of East Cleveland for decades, to the detriment of the residents. What we said 4 years ago was that we wanted to try to bring some of those back. Once a city has done away with a number of things, and many things have been taken away, the people who used to perform those functions are gone, and the money that used to fund those functions is gone as well. It is insanely difficult to restore the funding, restore the knowledge, and restore a city's ability to perform. When people did away with housing inspectors and the housing department and belittled that place, our housing stopped. At the same time, our buildings stopped. Those things are very, very difficult and costly to replace. So, as we had to deal with all of these systemic factors, it takes someone who at least sees and acknowledges that, and doesn't try and blame it on the people who sit in the seats today. It's not the fault of the people who sit in the seats today. But what happens is we must ensure that we elect people who do not continue to cut important things. Now that does bring us to today. We have people who have cut the police by 25%. We have 25% fewer police in the city of East Cleveland today than we had just 1 year ago. And when the police see that layoffs are coming, not only do those laid off leave the force, Those who are still here know that their number may be up next. So we have had a shocking number of resignations, not from retirement, not from police work to go in some other line of work, but simply to go to another city's police department that is more stable, not because of anything that the mayor did, but because the funding for police has been cut. I think everyone in here knows how the funding for police got cut. When you diminish your safety, how in the world do you expect businesses to come into your city? One of the commitments that I made as mayor 4 years ago that we were going to continue to build and strengthen and enhance the police force. When we had partners on council who were willing to put in place proper funding levels to do that, we did it for 3 years. Crime of all types went down. Police were walking the beat. Police were in more cars. Police, has anybody seen our bike patrol? Police had bike patrol. Police would just be beat cops. We built up the auxiliaries as well. We had police who once again, like the days of old, interacted with the community. Who got to know your names and who got to know your children and your grandchildren, who got to know what a street looks like under normal circumstances. And if something became abnormal, we were able to address it. Were we perfect? Absolutely not. Far from it. We have a lot of work to do. But we did it until the funding cut. Vacant and abandoned houses. 4 years ago, we talked about vacant and abandoned houses. Detrimental to a community in several ways. A couple of the ones that are key to me, which was the quality of life. Vacant and abandoned houses do more to negatively impact the quality of life for people, residents, who live on the streets in the city of East Cleveland than almost anything else. We must get rid of a number of dilapidated, vacant, and abandoned houses. We must. The city had 40,000 people at one point, so it was built to house 40,000 people. And right now we've got around 20,000 people. If you just look at that simple math, it was built for 40,000 people. It now has 20,000 people. Almost half of our housing units are vacant. There is not a bet in the world that anyone will place that in 5 years our population will double in size and go back to $40,000, which means that unless we do something, we will continue to have about 20,000 more housing units than we actually need. It's just a number when I say it like that. But let's just take one. The vacant housing unit, just one of 20,000 at the intersection of Shaw and Lee. What can be done, just one out of 20,000 vacant housing units. What can be done in one vacant house? We've all seen what can happen when you have a mix of 25% cut in police. The mindset that we don't need to tear down these vacant and abandoned houses. And the last one, a 33% cut in the city service department. When you cut the city department by 33%, you're essentially saying that you do not want that department to exist to perform the functions that it's designed for. That's essentially what you're saying. We warned about this type of activity months ago when it was first being contemplated, because we wanted to prevent things from happening in these vacant and abandoned houses. We wanted to make sure that our police force stayed intact, and that we only let it shrink if people chose to leave of their own will, that we had to terminate somebody. But we ended up having to lay off a number of officers. We ended up having to let the grass get 4 feet tall. And we ended up having to keep vacant and abandoned houses. And why do I say that? Because lack of police, vacant and abandoned houses, high grass, create conditions where someone can store 3 dead bodies. We need to get people whose mindset is that we must put people first. We need to get people into elected offices who understand that we're not just planning for the next 6 months. We need to make sure that East Cleveland is intact for the next 100 years. We need to get people who understand that so much investment in the city of East Cleveland? Because we, as a community, have not yet created the conditions in which people want to invest. The ultimate investment for someone, the ultimate answer as to why the ultimate decision that can be made on someone's behalf, whether it is a private company or a resident, is to live in your city. If that person chooses to live in your city or put their business in your city, that's the ultimate choice. That says it's doing something right. We have, in a couple of areas, looked at market conditions. What are the places in East Cleveland where if today the land was available, and it's available at a cost that the person is willing to pay, what would be the place where people are most likely to invest in East Cleveland today? And those of us who were in the decision-making process, which included multiple people, chose Ward 2, as close to University Circles as you can get. We started doing what we said we would do, demolishing vacant and abandoned houses. When you look at a street full of vacant and abandoned houses, it looks ugly. It looks like no one in the world would ever come there. It looks like something out of a horror movie. But what we did in the first year was demolish almost an entire street, an entire residential street of vacant and abandoned houses, as close to University Circle as we could get. And what happened as a result of that was that University Circle developers immediately built the Circle East Townhouse development, which brought 25 brand new residents to the city of East Cleveland, working professionals who probably make $50,000 to $70,000 living right here in our city. A person who makes that amount of money could live just about anywhere they want. But these people, because of demolition in a strategic area, a developer built a new complex, it's 100% full, people making $50,000 to $70,000 a year, and they have a waiting list. People want to live in East Cleveland if we get rid of all the other dangerous houses and we adequately fund our security force. Another issue. Vacant and abandoned housing demolition led to the creation of 40 new residents in the city of East Cleveland, right across the street at Mildred L. Brewer Place. Proof that new construction results from tearing down old, ugly, dilapidated, dangerous houses.
1 minute.
Thank you. So to sum up, it's not just me that has a role in this as a man. It's not just me that I think about. It's you. We must put into office people who put people first. I send my 3 precious little girls to Superior Elementary School. As their dad, I must improve that area. I take my 3 precious girls to the Martin Luther King Civic Center. As their dad and the mayor, we must improve that area. I treat your family